What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It's time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I am your host, TJ Zwarich, editor in chief of agentsofandom.com, ready to talk about some Mandalorian episode 6 from season 3. I'm excited. I liked it. Not everybody liked it, but I think it's leading us towards an exciting last few episodes here to end the season. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and best buddy, Garrett Blaney. How you doing?
I'm doing good. The further I get away from the episode, I like it more and more, but I think it definitely has issues. I can't wait to get into all of it, but I feel like I haven't been able to talk The Mandalorian in a while. So I'm just excited to be able to chat my thoughts on it after a couple of weeks and with a great squad.
I'm with you. It's only been a week, but I feel like between Ticket to Reality and our other Agents of Fandom episode breaking down all the trailers and all the news, it feels like it's been so long since we've gotten to talk about it. So in the background, we also have our amazing producer and graphic designer, Ruben Rapalda, as well as Agent Adam Blevins behind the scenes on production. And he's here to rein us in if we get carried away. If we're being too excited about the episode, he's here to come in and tell us how much he didn't like this episode. We also have a very special guest today, a host of Comic Book Nation, our good friend, Matt Aguilar.
What's up? Hey, everybody.
How you doing, my friend? It's nice to see you again.
I know, it's always good. You guys are amazing. So anytime I can be a part of it, I am happy to. So, and also I am very excited to talk about this because I feel like every time we talk about Mandalorian on the show, it gets heated. So I don't know. I've got my fingers crossed for a different combo, but we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. Only time will tell.
If I'm not mistaken, Adam and Kofi feel very, very similarly about different things in The Mandalorian. I think Adam likes this season a lot better in general, but I think their qualms are very similar. So, hey, tune into Comic Book Nation tomorrow. Maybe we'll just get Matt here instead. Adam can join Kofi in a Mando rant, everybody's happy. Make sure you're following the Agents of Fandom on all the podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any content. You can find all the shows on the Agents of Fandom podcast network, including Fandom Academy, Ticket to Reality, Listen 3000, The Critics, and of course us, the Agents of Fandom podcast, on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere you get your pods. Spoiler warning, it's time for the Agents of Analysis. Let's dive into this episode here because I want to start things out with, before we even get to plot, let's talk about the crazy cameos. Let's talk about these crazy additions to the Star Wars universe we have. Matt, I'll throw it to you first. We got Christopher Lloyd, we got Jack Black, and we got Lizzo.
Yeah, I was super. I actually got two of those spoiled for me before I went into the episode. So, like, a little bit of the surprise was gone. But then also when someone said, like, oh, Jack Black and Lizzo are part of it, I was like, okay. Like, I was still intrigued. They were probably more intrigued than anything. And then look, I'm not the one to really have a ton of qualms with guest appearances. I tend to enjoy most of them unless they just, I don't know, like, unless they just completely derail the plot or something. I give a lot. I'm one to give a lot of leeway to cameos because they're just fun. They're if you don't like them, it's like they're like toy exclusives. If you don't want it, great, don't buy it. But I'm not gonna yuck someone else's yum. You know what I mean? So I thought it was fun. I liked him. I also thought, man, Christopher Lloyd just came out swinging. It was fun. It was nice to see him in a little bit of a change up. I thought it was cool.
He did really come out swinging. I had a lot of fun with them too. When Lizzo said, like, "Can I hold the baby?" I just thought it was hilarious. Garrett, what did you think about these cameos?
Well, I just want to point out first, you missed a cameo, and that's Harry Holland, who was the Mon Calamari Prince at the beginning, which I didn't know that until after the fact. So that's also a fun one.
I didn't realize that one when I was watching, and how I found out about it is I messaged Rachel as I'm watching this episode of The Mandalorian, and I was like, and we'll touch on this more later, but I was like, I was right. You and Garrett gave me so much shit. I was right. I'm a genius. And she her answer was like, Harry Holland, what? And I was like, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, calm down on the genius stuff. I know what you're talking about. We'll get at it later. I don't know if we'll go that far, but no, that is a fun cameo. It's definitely not something I recognized immediately by the voice, but we have our little Mando chat, and I believe it was Layla or CJ or someone who mentioned it in there, and that's a shocking but fun one. That in my eyes is a fun cameo. Jack Black was good, and Christopher Lloyd is cool, but Lizzo for me was just horrendous. Like I love Lizzo. I think it's a really cool aspect of the Star Wars universe that we give celebrities cameos in cool things. Like stormtroopers and whatnot, but I think that's the cool part of them is they oftentimes like just say one line or something, and it's like really funny. And like Jason Sudeikis and Daniel Craig and some big names. And then we have Lizzo, and we give her like an entire episode part, and she just stinks up the room. And that's just a big bummer to me. Because I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that for her. I know it's probably a dream come true for her. It's probably super fun. But let's cut it down to 4 lines, and I think I have a much smaller issue with it. But overall, I think given the nature of the episode and kind of how fun it is in its storyline, it doesn't necessarily ruin it for me.
Brit is just letting you hear it in chat right now. Whether you're watching us on YouTube in video form, listening to us on the podcast, or on live on Twitch right now, we thank you for tuning in. And the chat's just going crazy right now. Ryan's making some good points that April 5th was a big day for Jack Black. Bowser School of Rock 20-year anniversary announcement and his cameo in The Mandalorian. And then varying opinions on Lizzo's performance as well. Daniel Craig, the stormtrooper, is a funny former cameo, but I enjoyed these. I thought they were kind of fun. But moving on to the next parts of the stuff that I kind of want to cover here, in terms of, I guess no. Before, I don't even want to get into the. Let's cover the episode specifics before we kind of talk into the philosophical aspects of how the Mandalorian and many Disney Plus shows are telling their stories episodically. I want to talk about Mando and his disdain for droids. I think it's hilarious that like they basically use this episode as like, the Mandalorians are going to be space cops today, and their mission of the week this week is them having to solve this problem, and Bo-Katan and Din Djarin are basically going to be good cop, bad cop, and get to the bottom of this. And Din Djarin given some mean cop vibes to these droids. You were saying, Garrett?
Yeah, it felt like an episode of Space CSI, and like the main lead is like racist, and his team is like, "Hey, man, we gotta chill. Like, we have an episode of TV now, and people are watching. Like, we can't be doing this profiling stuff." It was a little much. But like I said, it's just a fun episode, and so I think that's a wild aspect. I think Bryce Dallas Howard probably had some fun, with all of that in terms of directing the episode. It was a lot. It was just a lot for me staying up till like midnight to watch this one this week. I was just like, what the hell am I doing here? I don't know.
That's very fair, and we'll touch more on the kind of expectations versus reality that I think impacts a lot of this. And when you are anticipated and you're staying up late at night, a lot of the time you're kind of wanting something big to happen, and when it doesn't, even if the episode on its own is great, it can kind of leave you wanting more. What Bo and Din reminded me of here is it reminded me of The Other Guys, the movie The Other Guys, and Bo-Katan was Will Ferrell cop, and Din Djarin was Mark Wahlberg cop, and just like they're dancing they're dancers, and he's trying to talk to his ex-girlfriend. He's like,
They don't
"What are
play
you
that
doing
shit."
here with all these strippers and their drugs in the club, and you're just like shaking it for dollar bills?" And it's like, this is a professional ballerina studio. That's what Din Djarin reminded me of here, is just like going immediately 0 to 100. Matt, what did you think of that interaction, but also this choice for the kind of mission of the week to be so focused on not just reclaiming the Mandalorians, but hey, solve our droid problem too?
Well, as a look, I enjoy this type of structure. I mean, I'm a huge Law and Order fan, and just about every Law and Order episode is laid out this way. It's we move the macro plot forward, kind of towards the beginning, maybe a little in the middle, and then towards the end, and then the bulk of the episode is whatever case it is that week. It's actually why I love the look. I'm a big fan. I hope actually that the Green Lantern series kind of follows this format. I like that kind of idea of like space cops essentially doing this kind of thing, and then you have an overall plot that's kind of moving forward in the bigger picture. So I like
agree.
this.
I agree. That's great. But the difference is this is an episode of like 8 or a season of 8 episodes, and those have like 46 episodes a season. So it's like cool to slow burn it like that.
But
Whereas
but
it's
this
a little
show
bit
has
differently
been
in an
this
8
from the
episode
beginning.
series.
But I don't
Yeah.
understand why. I guess this show has been this way from the beginning. So like it's always had this. Like it's always had this kind of structure. Like a lot of the episodes do. And the ones that don't are typically the ones that you'll get like either extreme of the sides, like really liking or disliking. But a lot of the ones that are in the middle are exactly this format. So I don't necessarily know why it's a thing now. Like where was the disdain for the past 2 years, I guess. Whether that's just like that concept is wearing on you, cool. But I don't necessarily buy the out of nowhere. Like, what is this Mandalorian nonsense? Why is an episode structured this way? It's like it's been this way for a while, and that's what I enjoy about it. So, like, when episodes are structured like this, I tend to like them. I don't tend to like some of the other the other ones that move away from those kinds of things. So, like, the whole. Also, I'm a huge fan of like RPGs. So, like, I don't look. There's always some like big thing looming in the background, but I spend half the time like crafting leather and solving someone's quest, go buying a bone. Like I'm that guy. So maybe this just speaks to me, and that's totally fine. It might just be my jam. But like I don't have a problem with it. Like I enjoy that type of approach to storytelling, episodic.
I'm with you in the sense that I agree completely that this has been what they're doing the whole time, and I want to bring Adam in because I know he feels differently. Why like. This to me felt exactly the same sort of mission of the week thing that they've been doing basically since the debut of The Mandalorian. I know you wrote up a wonderful review of the episode, as you've been doing for every episode this season, Adam, up on agentsfandom.com. Why do you feel what they're doing now is different than what they've been doing since the beginning?
Well, to what Matt just said, the biggest problem, and that I think everybody has with this type of structure this season, one, this type of episode at this point, it just feels like a little late. And I wrote about this a little bit, that I think this episode would have been better suited like in the episode 3 slot, because I think it's kind of funny we've gotten that far away. I'm not going to go too much on episode 3 because I could talk about how much I hate that for hours, but we still don't have any of that whole thing resolved. But so I don't really see why now that this couldn't have just fit right into that slot. But the reason that I think it worked so much better in like previous seasons is because we knew like the goal of the first 2 seasons was to get Grogu to his people or to find out or get him to somewhere. And it was pretty clear that we knew exactly what we were doing. And like even these little side missions in a way were like helping us further that plot line. Like even if it wasn't a small, we got to do something to help like get Grogu this thing that he need, or get Din this. And then at the end of this episode, like the whole point of this like massive side plot thing that they did was just like, yeah, we've got these people over in this little secluded area type beat, but we're going to block you off from it until you go handle all these droids. And another thing I wrote about is like, I don't think that the whole side plot and everything was bad. Like I had fun watching it. Like, and I think it was a fun time watching them, do all the space cop stuff. And even though I think Din had some real racist cop energy going on, But still, I was like, is the whole time I kept wondering, is the whole point of what we're doing, like, is unless there's something else that's coming, and then there wasn't. I was like, is the whole point of what we're doing, they just got to do all this just so they can give them a meeting, and then that was it. Like that was all that it was, and so like 85 to 90% of this episode will like not matter. And again, I would be a little more okay with that if this was like a little bit closer to the beginning of the season. But like at this point, after the tease they just gave us last episode, and I guess you could still just say that's just me having, expectations, and I should just go in and not expect anything, and then I would have been satisfied. But like, I think what hurts this episode is just that it's so out of place, and I think we're just way too late in this. We still haven't seen Gideon. I guess we went off and got some more Mandalorians, I guess, sure, in the last like 5 minutes, but it just seems like nothing that like. I don't think anything that we did this episode will be remembered in any kind of spectacular way. I think it was just really, really forgettable because of where it was placed, and it was just like, what was the point? And everything we just watched, if not, or what was the point besides just to get that meeting? Like that seems like the only point to me, which is kind of where my problem is.
It feels to me like the storytelling is not consistent, or the pace of it, or like the flow of it is not consistent. It feels to me like if we watch this, like this episode in a vacuum is pretty awesome, like minus my personal opinion of, like the acting taking me out of it a little bit in some places. It is a really fun episode, but when you look at it in the broader series of things in a week to week context, I'm losing myself a bit. Whereas I can see if I were to have binged the season, or I would have been like crushing it because the moments would be hitting, and I would be. It just feels to me like things happened in post production. Maybe I'm subscribing to the theory that like there was a bigger plan that happened, and things within the universe, actors changing and writing characters out, totally scrapping a show that had plot points that they needed to put into this show now for things in the broader context to make sense. All of that makes a lot of logical sense to me based on the way that this season is going thus far. And it's not even that I don't enjoy it. It's just that it feels very weird.
Here's why I agree with Matt that not that we need to have low expectations in terms of enjoyment, nothing like that, but when we set an expectation for this is the story I want to be told right now, if that's not where they go, it can be very disappointed, because this is actually, if you look back at the previous episodes, the exact formula they've been following since the debut of The Mandalorian. Through 6 episodes of season 1 of The Mandalorian, each one was a singular case of the week. Moff Gideon didn't show up in season 1 for the very first time until episode 7. That was his debut in the Mandalorian series. And so season 3 is the beginning of a 2-arc season with the addition of the Ahsoka fill-ins that they're going to be doing here. Season 2, much faster pace through the end. They cut off the missions of the week in season 2 by episode 5, and 5 all the way through 8. We're just straight same plot all the way going through here.
Well, we don't start this season with an episode of the week. We start this season with a 1-2 really fast-paced punch of ending with the Mythosaur, and then we start to go into the New Republic storyline kind of stuff, and then we go back to the Mandalorian stuff, and then we have a nice mixture of the 2 storylines. And now that we're ending episodes on high notes, and then kind of like not, and then ending them again on high notes, and it just feels like, okay, we want you to be paying attention again for next week, so we're dropping this like cliffhanger. And I know that's like a classic thing to do, but it feels weird.
You just described television.
Yeah, I know, but this isn't a 20 episode season of television, and it's different.
It just,
this is an
my point is
week
though,
to
it's
week
just
thing.
that it's whether we like it or not. It is the same format they followed in episodes in the first season. Not the second season they differed, but it's the same one they followed in the first season. And this season's story is the rise of Mandalore. It's not specific to Din Djarin, it's not specific to Bo-Katan, it's not specific to Grogu. It's the reunification of Mandalore. It's 2 polar opposite sides who have always disagreed, and multiple different sides in between who have always disagreed, finally finding ways to put aside their differences and find some common grounds in their beliefs and ultimately come together. And whether or not we like that story is a totally different thing, but that's kind of the one that they're telling here. And on to, once we've solved the droids, my last point on the kind of whole droid mission of the week here thing is, I do really think this is going to come back in the future. I think Mandalore having an alliance, a diplomatic alliance with a whole ass independent planet, that's going to, especially with a whole ass independent planet that has access to battle droids that can be reprogrammed by Ugnaughts on a whim. That's going to become in very, very, very beneficial for the whatever war the Mandalorians are going to be fighting next season. In addition,
can we give
to
a shout out to the Ugnaughts?
Yeah,
Yes,
shout out to the
please.
Ugnaughts big time. I love the callback to Queel at the beginning. Matt, talk to me about the Ugnaughts and the bringing it back to like season 1 once again with Queel and I Have Spoken.
Oh yeah, I just love that. So that's one of the things that I think. Okay, well, real quick before I move into that, I will say from my part in the kind of previous discussion, I will say, like, to put a button on me, I will say I watched the last 3 episodes back to back to back, right, just to get myself in brain, because like I'm one of those, like, I will forget what happened. I need those recaps sometimes. Like, I have to go back and reread issues right before I read another one. Like, I need the constant memory, right? So here I was like, I needed a little bit of a refresher. So I watched the last 3 episodes, and I came away with the thing of like, I could watch Bo and Jin, just a show all about them, just doing random crap in the universe.
Just living in a house.
I could watch like 8 episodes. I could watch like 8 episodes. But the thing was that, like, seeing their progression from where their relationship started to now, it's just really engrossing TV for me. Like, that, I enjoy their dynamic, how to see them grow, and like coming back to them. That whole scene is a great example of why, right? Like, they're having this whole discussion, and she's watching him like be like a really great, liaison, and pulling from his old experience and doing that. And he lets her have the floor for a minute and then sees it's going like terribly right. Same way she does with him later on. And like has to pull, like, kind of step in and be like, okay, I've got this. And they have the whole conversation, and he knows how to speak to them. And it's a great nod for like fans who've been watching since the beginning, but also it just goes to show like they're growing, not even appreciation, but like growing respect for each other's strengths and weaknesses and those kinds of things. And especially when you put that against the already kind of evolving thing with Faith and how they both approach it, and the old ways and the new ways, and how that bridges with her even going, Bo being the only one who can actually not have the helmet on. Like, all that stuff ties in so neatly together that's the stuff I care about. I don't really give a shit about Moff Gideon right now. Like, that's so far from my brain. Like, when they bring it in, cool, but like, I don't care about that stuff right now. They've sold me on Mandalore and why I should care about these characters, even though the Mando squad, it was nice to see them like be in the city recently and have that awesome battle where like they actually look like they can pose a threat to someone, because the last 2 monster fights, they have been so outclassed, and it's been like, how are you guys still alive? Like, I don't know how you guys don't strategize better. You suck at keeping watch. Monsters just sneak up on you all the time. Like they were looking really sad for a minute. And so it was kind of nice to see them get that back. But I digress. But it was nice to see that pullback. But I think, again, it feeds into the main reason that I care, which is those two and how they are pairing off and how they are both growing as people, and acceptance of other cultures and acceptance of other things. I love that Mando's a little like, he doesn't trust droids, right? And it's a lot of deep-seated stuff. And it shows that stuff is not easy to get over, right? Like, there's bad attitudes and bad things and assumptions you've made about people that you shouldn't. So I like that we're like tackling it. It's a little ham-fisted sometimes, and it could be more nuanced, absolutely. But I still like that they're targeting it and they're approaching it. So yeah, I dig it. I dig that part.
They also use really cool balances at the in this season where they're showing the polar opposites of like extremism in both ways have their own issues of like, us doing absolutely nothing, and us and humans just living only for work. Both of these, I mean, kind of have their own issues, and the reality and the proper way is always somewhere in the middle. Bringing it back to kind of foreshadowing and plot stuff with the Ugnaughts and the droids, I think it's very interesting how this season began with Mando wanting to recommission IG-88 and wanting to reprogram IG-88, but nobody had the ability to do that. Now that he's met these Ugnaughts in this planet, I do think that could be what we're leading to for next season, is toward the end of this season, him bringing IG-88 back to these Ugnaughts and them repairing him for him and then them rejoining the squad. I do think that's going to be why this portion was imperative. But then bringing it back to, I'm with you, Matt. I want to see, like, Mandalore rebuilt. I don't really care about Moff Gideon right now. Whether you do or not, I don't think that's right or wrong. That's just a differing of opinion. But absolutely. I do think it's important to note kind of what Favreau said before the season debuted is, I wrote season 1 and 2 at once. I wrote season 3 and 4 at once. That wasn't even an ending. Season 4 is not an ending. Like, we have no plans for this show to end anytime soon. And Carlos, Agent Carlos, brought it up in our Mandalorian spoiler chat, and I think that's a great point too. Is whether we want it or not, Disney knows Grogu is a cash cow, and they're going to prolong these seasons, and they're in no hurry to tell a story. Even if it's only 8 episodes, we got other shows coming out, and we know it's going to be around for a long time. So I don't think they're in any hurry to tell the long, overarching stories, even if we want them to be. And we're going to get to more to this at the end of the show when we talk about what is our ideal Star Wars project. Like, if for you, like, what are your preferences? What would you like a show to be? I want to talk about the battle between Bo-Katan and Axe Woves, because these are two individuals that know each other. They've interacted with each other. Bo helped assemble this fleet. It was basically all her. And now it's Axe Wolves leading it. We saw him interact with Harry Holland and co. at the beginning, and then the hand-to-hand combat with Bo-Katan at the end. Matt, I'll throw this one to you first, and then we'll go Garrett. What did you think of not so much the symbolic importances of this fight, but just Bryce Dallas Howard's direction and the hand-to-hand combat between these two here at the end of the episode?
I thought the actual, like, just moment-to-moment battle that played out was really great. I would have liked to, and this is my probably one thing of, I would have liked to see it longer. Like, I would have actually liked to see that battle last longer because of the significance of it. So, and just because I dug it, like, I liked what they were doing, and it was keeping up the pace, and it didn't sit around too long. So I applaud that, but I would have loved to see a little more of it, just because I was digging what she was doing. Like, it was a really action-packed fight. I like that they varied, like, the verticality was nice. Like, they weren't just on the ground doing, Black Widow maneuvers. They were actually, like, getting up in the air, using jetpacks in novel ways, like, a couple spears in there, right? Like, it was nice to see them actually utilize the jetpacks. So I just dug the actual moment-to-moment of it. I would have loved to see more of it, but again, that's probably that's a good thing, right? You want to see more of it. Also, just a shout out for a Mercedes Vernado sighting. Coscariz, it was awesome to see her back, even though I was beyond bummed she didn't actually have a line. She didn't actually say anything. I was really bummed, but still awesome that
she said one thing at the beginning. She said
it's
the
like,
thing about
yeah,
about we are honorable. You just got to pay us enough credits or whatever. But yeah, you're right. You're right. But I agree with everything you said about the fights. The fights were super awesome. But for me personally, I've watched a lot of Bo-Katan fucking some shit up, and I knew as soon as she challenged him to a duel that she was about to whip that ass. So I was personally never, like, there was no stakes involved in this for me, because I knew she was about to beat that ass. And when I think of Axe Woves as an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, I can only see Agent Bakshi and his, like, hypnosis taking over people's minds and whatever. So I'm always happy. He's always going to be a villain to me. Always happy to see him get his butt whooped. And seeing it happen by Bo-Katan was especially delicious.
I love the Agents of Shield pull. I was literally trying to figure out why I recognize this guy, and it's It's Bakshi with Hydra. Great call. Great pull. What I loved about this scene is, and I resonate with this a lot, is when Din's asking like, what are you gonna do when you talk to Axe Woves? And she says like, I don't know, but I'll know when I get there. Like I got to assess the situation. I got to see what I feel, see what I'm dealing with, and then I'll handle it. And when she gets there, she challenges him, and I love the fight as well. I thought it was awesome. But what I loved about that is, like, now don't get me wrong, preparation is always important, and I'm sure Bo Katan had 6 different plans in her brain given for different things coming. And I mean, preparation is important. Garrett said to me the other day, he said, TJ, stop sending me these rundowns 6 seconds before the show starts. And I said, Garrett, fuck, that's fair. And so I sent it first thing when I woke up this morning. And
guess how much studying I did?
Any?
The same amount.
The same amount.
Character growth. Maybe I'll do better next time.
Hey, we're all just here to grow a little bit each time. It was my first time doing it. You know, it's we're all gonna be better here in the future. But what I loved about that is, like, I firmly believe, whether it's sports or whether it's teaching or any type of leadership / mentorship position, you can't just have a system. You can't have a system that works for everything. A good coach maybe has a great X's and O's system that when new people come in, they try and plug them in and it works decently. Maybe they're a good coach, but a great coach is always going to adapt their system to what their team is. If you have a bunch of speedy people, you're going to make a team that goes fast. If you got a bunch of tall, strong people, you're going to make a team that plays slow and that plays physical. It's same with teaching. If you're going to adjust your teaching style based on the class that you have. Telling kids to sit down and take some notes and watch this and write a test, that works great for some people. For other people, it's the most difficult thing in the entire world. When I was in university, I took 2 classes that were almost the same content, but how the professors taught them were totally different. I got a 51 in one of them, and I got an 89 in the other one. I didn't do anything different. It was just totally how they were taught. And so I kind of appreciate that Bo-Katan is learning that. Bo-Katan used to be so set in her ways that, like, I am right. This group is right. This is what I'm doing. And she even kind of began this season that way of, like, Children of the Watch, they're all terrible. They all have these, they came from Death Watch. The Death Watch was terrible. I know it firsthand. Obviously, these people are too. This group that she is now coming to views things the same way. They have their own way of doing things, and they don't want to conform to any others. And Bo is kind of realizing there's no one right way. We can meet people in the middle, and that is the proper way to lead. And what I think that showed with how she decided to handle this. I think it showed with it showed throughout this season with how she's handled the Children of the Watch as well, and of course the handling of the Darksaber. Now, this is one thing that is very interesting because I brought this up the episode that it happened. And I was trying to say, like, I feel like this is a big character moment for Bo-Katan because Din Djarin lost the Darksaber when he got captured. She then saved him. And so, ex facto, he lost, and she beat the person who beat them. It could be hers right now if she wants it. I think what they're saying is she doesn't want to lead anymore. She's saying she's done. She has given up hope. If she wanted to take that saber, she could justify it. It's hers. I don't really think she's want to. As she has learned to embrace some of the old ways and also learned to meet people in the middle and realize that enough Mandalorian blood has been spilled by our own people, none of this is important. What's important is that we're all together, and there is a justification now for her to wield the sword, and she is once again wanting to lead, and that is what kind of transitioned with Mando making the same leap there, going, I'm not the leader here, she is the leader here. Yes, I understand there are rules, but guess what? This is following the rules. And at the same time getting everyone to sort of acknowledge that you open the door with, hey, we followed the rules. We did it. No one's breaking any rules here. Can we all be together? And now that you're all together, you work at building those bridges. Those things that separate you, you work on mending them and bringing yourselves closer together. What do you think of Bo wielding the darksaber now, Matt, and how do you think that went?
I think, man, TJ, I think you said it incredibly well. I think it was, better than anything that I could add. I agree with you. I think all of those things played a factor in it, and I think I remember when that happened, like when she saved him and wielded it. And by the way, it was nice to actually see someone wield it who like knows what they're doing, because like Tin just like is always so freaking clumsy with it and can't hit anything. And it was awesome seeing her kind of have that moment. You were kind of, I remember being kind of like, oh, okay, so that's something about this will get her that spot, because like there's no way, they just showed that it belongs to her. Like that's her weapon. It should be with her. And so, finally seeing that play out here was satisfying. But I agree. I think you said it really well. I think all of those things played into it. It was nice. It was a nice payoff.
Garrett, how about you?
Boo! Oh my god, boo. Like, yeah, okay, it makes sense that she has it and she is the wielder of it, but that was just so fucking lame. Like, I'm sorry that I have to be the one to say it, the one to bring down the vibe, to be the party killer, the party crasher, but that moment did not pay off for me at all. I mean, I I don't understand why we couldn't have just had this moment back a couple episodes ago. Like we really would be in the pretty much the same spot. Has she grown this season? Yes, a little bit.
We were ready. She was
really
not.
a little.
That's why we
were
ready.
A little.
I think that's selling it short. I agree with you though. It should have been way before. You could have had this earlier.
We were ready for that, but she wasn't, and that's
if we're gonna make it a main point of the show in the season 2 finale, where she can't accept it in this massive moment because she has to earn it in a battle, it has to be won. We all know how big of a deal it is, especially if you've seen Rebels, if you know the fucking lore. You know how big of a deal it is, and then to, like you said, to really politic it out, to lawyer it out, to really just like. Yeah, it's on a what's the word I'm looking for? On a loophole. On a loophole. We're gonna give it to her in front of this, but we're gonna make it a really awesome moment in front of all these people. We're gonna have a speech. It's gonna be like, no, come on. Give her a fucking cool moment where she earns it. That moment happened in the season already, where she beat the robotic thing and saved Din. So if we're gonna do it then. It makes sense then. It's cool then. We'll all believe it. And then they go back to the Mandalorian covert. She has the sword instead of Din. Nobody asks questions. She still gets to be asked to be the leader of everything by the armorer. We're still in the same spot. What the fuck are we doing? Like I'm just so bummed by this. It could be so much better.
I don't disagree with you. I think you could have easily done it then.
Yeah. I just don't know why we're waiting until now. It seems like we're waiting. It's because we want to end every episode on a big moment to like keep us in the loop, because we know that we're selling a product that's not as good as what we sold last time.
I think you made a lot of good points, and I'm partially disagree, partially agree, but where I want to provide the countering opinion is, and Adam, feel free to hop in here after me if you want to give in a take as well. But that's kind of the point, is it wasn't supposed to be that. It's very The Last Jedi-ish, where no, we can't keep doing the same things over and over and over and over again. And so Bo-Katan and Din, who are sitting in the middle trying to unite the people. For the people, it's very important that it was won in battle. For Bo-Katan and for Din, they don't give a fuck anymore.
Was it important for the people? Because they all just kind of accepted it.
Well, yeah, because they didn't know about the battle until then. They didn't see the episode. They weren't aware of it, right? Bo and Din were.
But the people that were there to be witness to that situation were all like, yeah, all right, yeah, sounds good to me. Like, it was, no.
For them, it had to be won in battle, because that's how it's always been done. And so to get people in the door, to unite people, you have to meet them halfway at a certain point. And so for Din Djarin and for Bo-Katan, it doesn't matter to them if it's won in battle, because Din knows damn well, he's seen Bo-Katan wield the saber, and he's seen himself wield the saber, that it should be her. Oh my god, I can't use this thing. It would be better in her hands. And even though his viewpoint on that is totally different than somebody else's, he recognized that, well, I can she technically won it in a battle, so I can please them with this. And this also now gets in the best hands of the leader. Totally fair if we don't like it. Totally fair if that's not the. I just think it's important to note that, like, that's it fits with what they gave us to begin with. Whether we like that, like the story that we're telling, totally fair. If we wanted it to happen earlier, totally fair. But it fits with the dejected Bo-Katan who had failed over and over and over again and wanted nothing to do with anything at the beginning of the episode, who has now had her mind opened by seeing a mythosaur, who has now learned from Din and learned from the Children of the Watch.
Are you telling me in episode 2, when they're having their conversation, if Din goes, hey, you just beat the guy that beat me, you deserve this, that she doesn't just take it?
I don't think so.
Really?
No.
Okay.
If that was the case, she would have just taken it. She wouldn't have given it back to him.
No, because he doesn't say that. She just gives it back to him.
But she does. It's not a. It's
So
never.
you're on what you're saying is all it takes is him to be like, "Hey, she beat the guy that beat me. It's hers. It's his validation that makes her accept it in your version." That's what you just said.
No, that's not what I said at all. That's what it took for the Mandalorians to accept it. That's what it took for this brand new group who didn't.
Lame! You are trying so hard to defend a bad decision. It's a bad decision.
Okay, that's okay that you think that. I don't think that's wrong. I'm just saying it. Whether their decision is right or wrong, that has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
I think we're
not getting anywhere.
I understand. Yeah, I understand. Also, this must be what it is like to watch me and Kofi go back. This was so like fun to be on the opposite side of this. I just got to watch this like Creed battle play out. This is amazing. This is great. I needed my popcorn. Yeah, I know. This is so delightful to be on this.
Don't take it out on me if you don't like something. I'm just explaining what happened, whether or not. I'm not saying it was the right decision or the wrong decision. It just is what it is. But we got about 10 minutes before we get out of here. We obviously have very different thoughts on what we want a Star Wars project to be, and that is totally okay. So I want to bring in Adam. I want to go to you here first. What is it for you? Because I know, like, first off, like, what are your favorite Star Wars projects? And if you were going to build your own storyline and style, how would it go?
Well, my favorite. Oh, that's such a tough question. My favorite Star Wars projects, like, I'll give one movie, one show. Like, Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie. Like, and I absolutely love like the original trilogy, and I think like Empire Strikes Back is probably the best like technical movie that Star Wars like that. It's just an awesome, like, it's a great movie. But to me, like, Revenge of the Sith is my favorite because I just love like the whole journey of seeing Anakin turn. To me, is just like in all the dark and like the dark side winning out. Like, I know ultimately they end up losing, but like in that movie, them ending up like winning out, you know, and the Jedi in hiding, to me is like it works so good. But then series wise, the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian to me are like my favorite Star Wars series. Now, I haven't seen Rebels. I'm actually just finished. I'm doing a rewatch of the Clone Wars right now, and I'm halfway through the final season, and then I'm diving right into Rebels after this, and I'm so excited because I know how much you guys all love it, and I can't wait to talk about y'all with it. But I guess if I had to pick like this is so tough because within Star Wars whether it's like structure and story, there's so many different options in terms of like your ideal project. But like I would love to see some kind of series about, like, you know, before the rule of 2 was a thing amongst the Sith. I would love to see some kind of series like way back, just kind of exploring more about like how the Sith came to be so feared and so powerful, and some of the stuff that even though they talk about and something like how there's some stuff that's not even acceptable for them to do now, like because they left a lot of like the old dark Sith ways behind and stuff. I would just love like I don't even know the different like the technical era it could be set in, but like an maybe like Old Republic maybe would be the right name of that, like Sith series Give me like 8 to 10 episodes and just focusing just on like whatever, a little covert, however many they had back then before it was the rule of two, like a little covert of Sith, Sith covert type thing. I think that would be that for me. There's nothing I could think of that would be more entertaining.
Love that a lot. Just in case Matt has to, something comes up and Matt has to bounce a little bit early, I want to make sure I throw it to you next here, Matt. And we got Comic Book Nation coming tomorrow morning, so make sure you check that out. If you're listening to this in podcast form, it airs every Friday morning at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. Sorry, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Matt, what's your ideal Star Wars series?
So I mean, my favorites tend to be for TV. It's no question. It's Mandalorian. That's just this show has struck a chord with me, and it's all the things I love about Star Wars just in one awesome compact show. And it's really about like that adventure vibe. I tend to really like that in my Star Wars TV and movies, but movies I'm okay with like veering away because like my last two like super favorite Star Wars movies are probably Rogue One and Last Jedi. I adore those. Last Jedi I just adore because it takes chances and it does different things and characters don't go the way you think they will. And the next movie then goes and like undoes all that. But but like I adore that. And same with Rogue One. I tend to love like team concepts, bringing the team together, get a ragtag group together. Like that's my kind of deal. For my dream show, I mean, it's probably no secret because one of the Star Wars characters I have bonded to most is Dr. Aphra. I want that show, movie. I don't care, animated, live. I don't care. I just want Dr. Aphra in a show, and I want it can capture that adventure vibe that Mandalorian does so well. But you can also do heists with it. You can do so many. If you want to make it more of an Indiana Jones flavor, you can. The character's so versatile and the supporting cast is so versatile that you can do a lot of things with it. I like it when Star Wars is having fun or really delving into its like darker areas, something like Andor really did. But if I had my preference, it's towards the fun. So Aphra kind of strikes those chords for me. So one day, I'm hoping, crossing my fingers. If you're not reading the comic, it's fantastic. You should. In fact, a lot of the Star Wars comics are great. So, yeah, that's me.
Garrett, is it a movie or a series? Who is it centered on? What's your ideal Star Wars project?
Asking me to pinpoint movie or series is unfair, so I'm going to dismiss it. However,
special presentation.
Either or, I don't care. Both have impressed me. I will say though, my ideal Star Wars project has a couple of things. It's got some really awesome Force users and some Force battles and lightsaber battles. It's got to have good versus evil. It's got to have symbolism. It's got to have a family feel, or a team feel to it. It's got to have one of the inherently Star Wars scenes where, we got epic space. Yeah, well, of course, pew pew, but a space dogfight. We got, we're going into hyperspeed. We got like what I said about Andor in the weeks leading up to like the eye sequence. I was like, this is gonna be a Star Wars sequence, and it was. Something like that, it's got to have that feel to it. And rebellion.
Of course.
And politics.
Of course, rebellion. Maybe with politics, maybe without the tax laws.
I like the espionage, how Rogue One is, the espionage feel of it, yeah.
Big time. And I'm with you guys, like Rogue One, The Last Jedi, Revenge of the Sith. I think those are my three favorites Star Wars movies right there. And with you, Garrett, I don't really care if it's a series or if it's a movie. To me, we really have the potential for my ideal thing to be really happening the very next project that we get. Ahsoka's my favorite character. Whether or not they tell this type of story remains to be seen. But my favorite kind of story is similar to what they do in Rebels is, you got your main character, but they're assembling a squad throughout the season, and by the end of the season, the squad's all at their best. The squad's side stories all come together, and the big battle, the squad's finally together, and together they overtake the thing that they could not do alone. That's my favorite kind of story. So I'm really hoping that's what The Last Jedi is. I'm hoping that's what Ahsoka is. I'm hoping Thrawn is this big, intimidating, terrifying presence that you have no idea when or how they could possibly win. And finally, when Ahsoka and Ezra and Hera and Sabine and Chop and Zeb and the whole squad is back together, and they meet up with Cal Kestis and they meet up with Rey 7 to 8 years from now for another big movie, we're all going to be very, very, very happy. Before we get out of here, we have Star Wars Celebration this weekend. Shout out to Layla and Jaden, who are boots on the ground in London right now, ready to provide some Star Wars Celebration coverage. Matt, do you got any predictions for things we could see at Star Wars Celebration this weekend, and where can the people find you on socials?
Oh man, I mean, it would be nice to get some Ahsoka footage. I know, wasn't there like a teaser or something shared at a previous con and they never released it or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, it would be nice to actually get some footage. People are going to be, I'm sure they're going to tie that in some way as we move forward. Almost every Disney Plus show does. So it would be nice to see that. And for me, I mean, look, I'm a big toy guy. I'm a big action figure guy. So it would be nice to get some Star Wars Black reveals and some other things that aren't just like repaints of the same 5 figures over and over. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed. For me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt Aguilar CB, and you can find me at Night of Owl on Twitch and YouTube and Insta. I will say there is a fun thing we've got coming. So because of this episode, and I'm not sure exactly when it'll go up. I'm hoping tomorrow, but if not, Saturday, maybe Sunday. We're gonna have a interview. We got to talk with Simon, who plays Axe Wolves. As part of the show, we got to talk to him about coming back and the return and all that stuff. So hopefully we will have that up on the page in the next few days. So should be fun.
Heck yes, love that so much. Adam or Garrett, do you have any big Star Wars Celebration predictions that you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
I will say Taika Waititi Star Wars news and maybe Acolyte. Anything Acolyte, I'm super stoked for. So I'll be excited for that. I just hope Layla and Jaden have a good time out there in London covering it.
I hope Layla gets the perfect amount of Pedro Pascal this weekend. I hope she sees him, but like doesn't get too much to the point that she like passes out and dies in the middle of a crowd of people, but like enough where she really,
to us.
That would be very detrimental to us, right? Like I just want her to get enough Pedro that she like has the time of her life, but not so much where she literally perishes. And so that's kind of what we're hoping for out of that one.
It's a fine line.
Fine line. It could tip either way. We hope Jaden, of course, has a amazing time there as well. And make sure you stay tuned to the Agents of Fandom socials, where our amazing social coordinator Ryan, as well as myself and Adam and a few others, are going to be working the socials this weekend at Agents Fandom on Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else, to make sure we're giving you the most up-to-date news from Star Wars Celebration. Time for your Level 7 lockup. Make sure you're following us on all the socials. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our content. You can find all the shows on the Agents Fandom Podcast Network, including Fandom Academy, that Layla and Jaden, who we, of course, were just talking about, host alongside CJ. Ticket to Reality, Listen 3000, The Critics, Damon's Comic Corner that pops up on YouTube, and, of course, the Agents of Fandom podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. We got some great merch, including the hoodie that I'm wearing right now, the shirt that Adam has been wearing throughout the show. You can find them at agentsoffandom.com/store. And I think that's about it. We're going to be back next week talking the more Mandalorian and all of the fun footage and news that we got from Star Wars Celebration. We got Secret Invasion coming soon, and we always got lots of great interviews and coverage coming your way. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.